Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, the podcast that brings voice to the voiceless. My name is Asha Kalatal.
And my name is Luisa Vieira. Today we will interview a Ukrainian refugee who currently lives in London, and she will tell us a bit about what the process of moving and settling in a completely new country and her experience in Ukraine during the war was like.
Antonina Smirnova, 35, was born and raised in Crimea before moving to Kyiv at 16. Following the full-scale invasion, she relocated to London where her twin sister lived. She made the journey with her 4.5-year-old daughter, who is now 7 and speaks fluent English thanks to starting school in the UK.
For the past 1.5 years, Antonina has been working as a communications officer at the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain. With a passion for storytelling and amplifying unheard voices, she brings a unique perspective to the mic, weaving personal narratives with broader discussions on displacement, resilience, and identity. Okay, so hi, Tonia. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's truly an honor to have you and to later hear your story, and we appreciate so much the time you're taking to share it with journey from Ukraine to London and what that process was like for you.
So, my name is Tonia. I'm 35 years old. I moved to London after the full-scale invasion in 2022. Before, I'm originally from Crimea. And so the annexation of Crimea happened in 2014. And I moved before that, so I wasn't like a refugee, but I had a family there in Crimea, and they moved after annexation of Crimea. So and all this time, like for more than 11 years now, they are still waiting for the time when it all will be over. Yeah, and so when the full-scale invasion started, they said we will never go anywhere, because how many more times should we leave our country? We want to live here. We want to live in Ukraine. Why every time something happens and we have to move from our country? Many people first reaction was to escape from the city, because everyone thought that Kyiv can be occupied and like it could be dangerous, and you never know how life could be in occupied cities. Like they never knew the reaction of Russians, for example, who were there and who just could kill you just because you just left your house. And so I have a daughter, and she was 4.5 years, and so all this week she was at home. And I thought, like, I need to have some plan, because I don't know how long it will take, and she needs to have a life, and she also she was so confident that everything is fine because she trusts me completely. And so I had a twin sister who was in London, and she said, come to us. But we had to apply for visa first. And so I applied for British visa, for sponsorship visa, and it took, like they said, it will take like about a couple of days, and you will get it and you can go. So I decided to move to Germany while waiting for this visa. But instead of a couple of days, it took about 3 months. So after that, I arrived to London, and but it was like a long journey, because there were a time when it was many checkpoints, and like the journey from Kyiv to Lviv, like it's western part of Ukraine, usually takes about 7 hours by car. It took us about 15 hours because we were checked in every checkpoint, and then it was so difficult to also cross the border, because everyone was crossing the border. There were like huge crowds of people, and it was awful just to see, because it was cold, beginning of March, and everyone was crossing the border by foot, and they were standing there like mothers and children, mainly no men, with some bags, and all these poor children, they were just staying there. They couldn't sleep because they are crossing the border like little by little. They need to stand there. And I was lucky to find like a bus that crossed. So we were crossing the border, being at least in some warm place where my daughter could sleep. But it took us 8 hours. We were just standing crossing the border.
Have you been back in Ukraine since?
Yeah, only once, and for 2 days only, and it was connected to my work, it felt like surreal. Like it's still air raid sirens. It's just people got used to this. It's just became their part of their life, and nowadays they are like renting an apartment, and the first question they ask, like, is it the area with the less chances of missile attacks? That's what people consider while renting an apartment now. And it's just their reality, yeah. They are just walking and you just hear this air raid and no one reacts because they don't even go to the shelter.
So you lived in Ukraine for, I think you said, a week during the invasion?
Yes.
How was that like living amongst like this huge war?
Yeah, it's just everything stopped on the first week when I left. Nothing worked except of small shops and pharmacies. I have pictures of this empty city, of the metro tube, and it was forbidden to take pictures because it can be suspicious. No one is why are you taking picture? Maybe you were some spy or what? Yeah, all of that felt very empty, and I thought this is the reality of life, and people still feel cheerful and they adapt to this reality, and just life goes on for them.
Yeah, that's honestly, I can't even begin to think about how that could be, having so much happen, but you have to keep moving. You have to keep your regular life going. It gets to a point where it's just so constant that you almost have to keep it not in the back of your mind, but you have to keep going. You have to move forward. I know you mentioned that when you were moving to Germany at first, you were thinking so much about your daughter and how that was going to, how living in Ukraine was affecting her life. So in addition to that, or maybe talking about that, what would you say was your biggest challenge or even a change that you experienced?
That could be about your time in Ukraine or the process of moving to London, settling down where you are now, or whatever you can recall.
I think the biggest challenge was when I moved to London, because I moved to my sister's apartment, and she had a very small apartment, and we lived in a living room, like a studio, an open space, and it didn't feel like it was my home. I felt like I'm intruding her life, and I didn't feel like I have a home anymore. And my daughter started school here, I found it like I had to organize a lot of things and have to think about this, also start finding some work. And I was trying to find accommodation here where I could live by myself, and it just was hopeless. First month it was just everyone refused me, and it's so difficult. And when you are a single mom with a child, you're a refugee without any stable work, where you can't prove your salary or your stable income. It's just impossible. And for some month I just felt like maybe I need to go back to Ukraine. It would be easier. But then I found an apartment on the same street where my sister lived. And before that, I had a bad experience of people rejected me, the apartment, just 2 days before I had to move. And then I found this one where I am now. It's a really small one-bedroom apartment, but still it's bigger than someone's living room. And so when I applied for it, and I just told my landlord the story of myself, my daughter, and he said okay, I don't need to check your salary income. I just trust you. Yeah, and I was like, how? It was a shock for me. And he said, yeah, I think our street need more people with interest in story. So, yeah, since then I live here, and I always try to pay 1 week before. I finally organized some of this life, and right now it feels fine, because I can feel that I just can relax a little bit and just leave and to be here and go to some theaters or museums and just spend some time with my daughter without thinking about some things that I need to do constantly.
I'm so happy to hear that you're on your feet, you're settled, and like you've had some moments of hope, right? Like your landlord taking a chance on you, like, you know, being like giving you some grace, you know, and just looking out for you. Like we were gonna ask about how staying hopeful must be difficult, and what moments of resilience or hope that has stood out for you overall. But I think that you answered that beautifully in the last response. But if there is anything else you want to share with us, like what you would like to see happening from the world, because like we know this war is still not over, and it's still going on. There are still so many people in need. Just like what would you like to see from the world to help those who are still affected?
Yeah, I think like when it all started in the beginning, this international response to these events was strong, but sometimes right now it feels like the world is getting used to the war, and like it's just another headline, and right now it's still like it's happening every day. And I know like still Ukraine needs a lot of financial and military aid and some support from people, and also not just in the form of weapons, but some humanitarian aid or some just even thinking about recovery of Ukraine's I think people like countries still need to think about welcoming refugees and providing them opportunities to rebuild their life. And you can't help someone while you can't help yourself. So first they need to think now about their status, about their life, and then they also try to continue their help to Ukraine. I'm trying my best to get this message to their other friends or people who are around me about what's going on every day in Ukraine. And so, yeah, I just think that people need more of this information about about what's going on right now, to not to forget about this, because the war isn't over. And yeah.
No, don't worry. Something you said really stuck with me when you said it kind of feels like people are just accepting it and it's just another headline. And I think that's so important. That's why we do this. That's why Asha and I do this, because it's just so important to get everyone's story out there. It's so important to not, just learn about what's going on in the other half of the world and just move on, because even if it's in the other half of the world, it's still happening in our world. And it's just so important that everyone knows about everything that's going on and does the most that they can. So we were just wondering if you had any last things to say, any last comments.
I just want to maybe people to know that this conflict is just not it's not even a conflict, it's a war, and it's also not only about politics or territory, it's about human lives. And hearing about some stories, you can think about some people, real people who are like families who are now torn apart by the war. And despite all of this, Ukrainians are strong, and they refuse to be defeated. And so my message probably is to ask people to continue support Ukraine in whatever way they can donate.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Advocacy is and talking about and speaking about everything that's happening is the best way to to help the people in need. It's not just like reading a headline, like you said before, and we need to constantly help those in need and talk about it, because like if we don't, how else is things gonna change?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, and we really appreciate you coming and offering such a unique perspective with us. It's been an honor to listen to your experiences, and we really hope that your story reaches more people, whether that is people who need the support and are just reminded that they're not alone in this, or it's people that are able to help and are able to, support, like you said earlier, and humanitarian aid and whatever it is that people in Ukraine need. We really hope that this reaches the right audience. And
thank you
so much.
you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. It was just such a unique opportunity. Every time, since we were under like our education system, we hear about it, but it's totally different to hear about someone that's lived it, that's experienced it, someone that like knows it's not just another headline, it's real life. So thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you follow our Instagram at _beyond the headlines for more information on each episode, and check out our link tree in the bio for more ways to help. But remember, just by listening to Tanya's story, you have made the world a better place by actively choosing to further your knowledge on a global issue.
Hopefully Tanya's story sticks with you and that you share it with someone you know. And remember, a story that seems worlds away is still a part of your world, and it is our responsibility to tackle society's indifference and bring awareness to stories that everyday media may not cover.
And be on the lookout on our Instagram for upcoming episodes. Once again, thanks for listening to Beyond the Headlines, the podcast that brings a voice to the voiceless.